Interestingly, though, as you know, there has also been a lot of back and forth between the leader of the United Kingdom, who has not stepped up, who is not choosing to go toe-to-toe with America. Now, of course, this is because he wants to avoid the supposed sins of the Iraq War, that being Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Now, apparently the United Kingdom, remember a week and a bit into this thing, is preparing on sending one of their aircraft carriers, maybe, to the Middle East. Now, would they start firing from those aircraft carriers into Iran? No, of course, it is just there in case they need to fire into Iran if British assets are attacked. Well, amazingly, as you will have heard by now, but if this is your first check-in on the news, let me bring you up to date. The president, he ain't happy. Going to his favoured social media platform, the United Kingdom, our once great ally, maybe the greatest of them all, is finally giving serious thought to sending two aircraft carriers to the Middle East. That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer. We don't need them any longer. But we will remember, we don't need people to join wars after we've already won. President Donald J. Trump. Now, what's particularly interesting about this is, remember I told you a couple of days ago, the Americans were telling us that the waves of attacks that were coming from Iran on all of those American assets and all of those countries that house things like American military bases, well, the wave of that was down about 85%, where there's no further update to what I told you on Thursday night. And remember, the president said that this was something that would go the best part of 4 weeks. The Iranians were saying today that they can fight intensely for 6 months. But let's just go back to that tweet and that key line here. But we remember, we don't need people to join wars after we've already won. Now, I doubt Donald Trump is about to do a version of mission accomplished here, but do not be surprised if by this time next week, it is America that is supporting Israel with what it is doing in the next phase, but perhaps the direct and daily involvement of the United States may well change. Why? Because the president is saying they've already won. So why would they continue on? Meantime, back to one of the reasons why the UK didn't get involved, when of course they should have. Getting rid of the Iranian regime is not just good for the region, it is of course good for the world, because this Iranian regime is able to not just fire missiles, but sponsor cyber attacks, pay for suicide bombers, and also wreak all sorts of havoc in domestic politics. We saw that here in Australia to the extent that we had to boot out the Iranian ambassador. But Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese are part of a political class who grew up in the shadow of the titanic figure that is John Howard. In many ways, they came to prominence, or certainly formed a major political view that was in and around the Iraq War of 2003. Now, I told you that at the time I was against that war. Why? Because it was not, in my view, a necessary war. What took place in Afghanistan was obvious because it was where al-Qaeda was being harboured. We all know the folly, in many ways, that was decisions made in and around the Iraq War. But of course, what is always forgotten from history when it comes to Labor people is that after Gough Whitlam got sacked by the Governor-General, the Australian people voted against the Labor Party not once but twice, i.e. decision confirmed. And even after all of the dispute and all of the people marching against the Iraq War, John Howard won in 2004 by an even bigger margin. One that for the first time in any of our lifetimes, one party, that being the Liberal Party, in its own majority with the Nationals, had control of both the lower house and the upper house. Yes, 2007, but that wasn't about the Iraq War. That was about a government that had been around for a long time, and of course interest rates that when it's the Liberal Party and they start going up, well, it becomes politically fatal. We've seen that with the Labor Party and it going up 13 times with another chance of going up again in the next couple of weeks. Nothing to see here.